Hey guys, hi, welcome back once again. And this time I wish to talk about the brutiful aspect of security. And if we look at the word brutiful, it means beautiful and it means brutal as well. And as beautiful is security for all of us, for our innate survival in this format that we have been given, or for any other life form in that respect, it is also essential to understand that maybe, just maybe, security may not necessarily be good for our thrival. Because security essentially comes from the ego self that we all have. From that ego aspect of us that doesn't want to change or that essentially resists change. And if we understand that there is a saying that goes that whatever you resist will persist. And probably that is why we keep repeating our patterns over and over and over again. And that is where also another saying comes in. History keeps repeating itself, but man never learns from it. Which invariably also states that history in the form of life keeps repeating itself. Our stories keeps repeating itself. But we very rarely see a different perspective of it because our ego self is so identified with the identity that we identify with and that others identify with, that it likes to stick on to it, even cling on to it, because it is projecting a certain image about itself. But we should also understand that life in the journey, as it is so called, is also a process in itself. And the process is about transformation. And since it is about transformation, it cannot escape change. And that is where we also need to understand that as beautiful as security is for our innate survival, maybe it is hindrance to our thrival because we as human beings cannot say of any other life form, but we as human beings also suffer from something that's called as existential crisis, which means that we do not only suffer from the notion of existing, just surviving, but we also suffer from the notion of the existence of this identity that we identify with and that the others identify with. We also suffer from the existential crisis about disrupting this identity that we identify with and that we project onto the outside world, which others relate to. We also suffer from the existential crisis of leaving a legacy behind, which is kind of identified with this identity that we like to project onto the outside world and that we like to believe about it as well, about our own selves. And somewhere that is putting ourselves in the box. But box at the end of this physical reality. Not saying the energy reality, not saying the vibrational reality, but at the end of this physical reality, we will go down in a box. So why are we putting ourselves in the box? So let us try and explore a different aspect of security. That yes, it is beautiful for survival, but maybe it is not beautiful for thrival. Maybe it is our aspect as a life form to learn more, the hunger to learn more, which also propels us to go into the uncharted territories, to go on to creating something that has never probably been created before, like man flying in the air. Who would have ever thought that man would fly in the air and that man could go out of this planet into another dimensions and start seeing that there is a bigger space outside which is actually spaceless? Who would have ever thought that there would be something called as a mobile or a laptop or something of a similar nature? Who would have ever thought that there would be a refrigerator a few hundred years back? We never thought of that, but somebody did. Somebody dared to explore those territories that were unfamiliar. Somebody dared to explore their own potentials. Somebody decided to take the faith of leap. And somebody decided that yes, life is unpredictable, but there is the predictability of it, that it guarantees that this physical format will no longer be there someday. And before that happens, why not try to explore that has never been explored, so that we learn something more about ourselves? Because they also say that growth, life happens outside of the comfort zone. So even if we look into the nature, we will see that up till a certain point in time, the bird also feeds its own babies. The bird keeps the babies with it. But when the baby is ready to fly, it lets it go. It doesn't hold on to it. And then it doesn't even identify with the baby bird that that was my baby bird and look how well it is flying. It just lets it go. It lets it find its own wings and its own path as well. It lets it have its own journey. And if we are always living to secure ourselves, we are barely coming alive, because in the same breath we are also saying that we do not trust life because it is unpredictable. But then so are we as an embodiment of life, and which again is beautiful in some ways, because it allows us to explore more, because it allows us to learn more and to unlearn what we have learned, so that we can relearn it and have a different perspective of it at the same time, so that we can grow, so that we can become a better versions of ourselves every time, so that we truly evolve. So let's try and understand that, like life, everything related to life, everything that is an embodiment of life, everything that addresses life, everything that speaks of life, everything that's an extension of life, is a double-edged sword. And we can appreciate it or we can condemn it. But that's the beautiful aspect of it. We can appreciate the sunshine for the energy it gives us, for the life that it gives us. But at the same time, remain too long in the sun, and there are a whole lot of proofs what happen when we do that. As important as breathing is to us, hold on to your breath a little longer than necessary, and you'll probably choke yourself. So as important as breathing is for our survival, to keep this body intact so that life can experience itself through it, with it, alongside it, as it is, hold on too long to it, and you'll probably suffocate your own self. So the idea is to understand that as beautiful and as important security is for us, for our basic survival, it is also important to understand that the walls that we build around ourselves to protect ourselves also at times becomes our cage. And we are the only ones to be able to understand for our own selves whether our sense of security is helping us truly come alive, is helping us thrive, or are we caging our own selves? Let us try and figure that out for ourselves, and I will see you once again in the next week. Till then, stay tuned in.